Hello enemies, adversaries, sports haters. Today I'm going to revisit my Kindle jailbreak video. I have a whole bunch of notes, so I just want to jump in. One of the first things that I want to just briefly touch on is my previous jailbreak video is my most viewed with the lowest retention and the least like video on my YouTube channel. So like, I get it, you guys hate it, and that's fine. The whole point of that video was just to give my personal experience and how jailbreaking my Kindle worked out for me. At the end of that experience, I felt like it was a waste of my time. That bothered a lot of people. I hear you. I just want to make a couple of little points. The first of which, I'm not tech savvy. I never claimed to be. One of the first things that I said is that I am a reader. I'm a normal person who reads books. I'm not a tech person. I don't spend a lot of time messing with technology. I buy something that I like and then I use it until it kicks the bucket. I will literally use something until it is obsolete, hence my 14-year-old Kindle. A handful of people straight up said that I'm like some kind of Amazon shill or Bezos shill. I hope that you guys were joking, but like, if I had Amazon money, would this be the setup? Would I look like this? I'm like covered in orange cat hair in every video. If I had Bezos money, like, this would not be it, babe. Speaking of orange cat hair, my cat is chewing on a cat toy. So if you hear some crunching and crinkling, that's what that is, and I'm very sorry. My content is targeted towards readers. And I understand that what's happening in the end of May probably had a lot of people search for Kindle and jailbreak and they got my video, which is not a tutorial, it's not a walkthrough, it's not advice, it is quite literally my experience. And it was meant more for people who read, who were on the fence. Take that as you will, it probably wasn't very helpful. I'm hoping that this one will be a little bit more clear, a little more coherent. Last thing that I want to say is let's keep it chill. That's it. Let's be helpful, not hateful. If you have advice, if you have scriptlets that work for you and you want to tell me how to use them, all of my socials are in that little description box. My email is in that box. Reach out. I love to learn new things. I'm happy to hear what other people have to offer. Feel free to reach out to me. I have such an incredibly small following that I answer comments, I will answer emails, I will respond to messages. So just reach out because I want to learn. I want this to work for me. I want to love it the way that other people love it. It just hasn't worked for me yet. If you hate Bezos, you hate Amazon, don't use Amazon, don't order their products, don't buy their devices, don't watch their streaming services, and then you're great, right? If you hate this company and the people associated with it, don't give them your money, but don't act like buying a Kindle and disabling the ads on it is like sticking it to Bezos. He already got your money, so it doesn't really matter if you don't have ads. That is not like fighting the man. That's about as much as I want to say about the previous video. So I'm sure that you already know you stumbled on this video because you're searching for Kindle and Amazon and jailbreak together because you know what's happening. On May 20th, Amazon will no longer support any devices. That includes Amazon Fire tablets, not just Kindles. Any device made before 2013. So 2012 and backward, all of those devices will no longer be supported. What that means is that you will not be able to get updates, you won't be able to get new content, and you won't be able to register those devices, which I think is kind of, for me, like a big point of contention, because I'm completely happy to use my Kindle the way that it's intended to be used. But if something happens and I have to re-register my Kindle or factory reset my Kindle, you cannot do that anymore with devices made before 2013. So if something happens and you have to factory reset, that's it. That device is officially worthless. I am almost certain that there are ways to jailbreak a Kindle without registering it to your Amazon account. I am not well versed in that. This is not the video to find that information. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors, and I'll see you next time. I got that stupid little email from Amazon, and I got their ridiculously annoying little, here's a 20% off coupon if you want to buy a new device, which really pissed me off because you are choosing, you're making an active choice to force these devices into obsolescence. You could continue to support these devices and it wouldn't cost you anything. You're making the active decision not to support these devices anymore. And then you're telling people, well, here's 20% off a new one. I probably wouldn't be as annoyed if it were a significant discount. If you told me, hey, your 14-year-old Kindle, we're not going to take care of it anymore. It's about to be a brick. Here's a 50% off or 60% off coupon for a brand new Kindle. I think that would be much more reasonable because, like I kind of said earlier, I already spent the money. I already gave Amazon the money for a Kindle when it was new. It's not my fault that you made the device work exactly how it's supposed to work and I've been reading books on it for 14 years. That's a you problem. I digress. Additionally, with how Amazon is not going to support these devices anymore, it doesn't just affect your ability to purchase from Amazon, it also affects your ability to borrow from Overdrive and Libby. So if you're a borrower like me, you can't do that on your old Kindle anymore, which also really pisses me off. Now you can't do that anymore. If you're the type of person who just really does not want to mess with your device, but you still wanted to read books and you didn't want to purchase them from Amazon, you could check them out from your library or Libby. And now that option is completely taken away. Like I said, it is forced obsolescence. It's Amazon saying, we made this device and it works and we're mad that people are still using it. So we want you to not be able to use it anymore at all and buy a new one to replace it. If I didn't already have a new Kindle, I would probably go buy a Kobo or like a Sony e-reader because it's just such a shitty move, but that's beyond the point. I really want to drive home and I really want you to keep in mind that even if you jailbreak your older device, if something happens and you have to factory reset or re-register, you can't, and that's it. The device is essentially worthless at that point. I saw some people in forums saying that they did the jailbreak, everything worked, they put their scriptlets on it, it was working perfectly, and then they went to use their device the next day and something had happened, probably an over-the-air type of thing, and they had to factory reset to get their device to work again. Just really keep in mind that even if you do all of this, you might still end up with a device that you can't use in a month. When I made my first jailbreaking video, all of this Amazon Kindle stuff had not been announced yet. All of the information that I was finding was years old information. I was happy to find forums that were 18 months old because that was the newest information that I was finding on how to jailbreak my Kindle, which is a Paperwhite 1. It was made and released in 2012. It's a very old device and it is running, I believe, firmware version 5.6.1.1. So it's pretty old because I think the newest Kindles are running like 5.20 or 5.18, something like that. With my first endeavor, I was working off really old information. Nobody was talking about jailbreaking these really old devices. A lot of people were more concerned with jailbreaking the newer Kindle devices. What ended up happening is all I could find was a lot of people saying to use the winter break and that the winter break would still work on legacy devices. When Amazon announced all of this crap, more and more and more people with much older devices started seeking out ways to jailbreak them. So when I went searching this second time around, there is information that is 2 days old. I'm finding forum posts with tons and tons of comments from literally a week ago that are talking about my exact device. It actually worked in my favor for Amazon to do this because more people were seeking out how to jailbreak older devices and I was getting much fresher, new, pertinent information. I want to go over very quickly what I did to jailbreak my Kindle. I did kind of a lot. I took some very brief notes. I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as I can, but bear with me because it was kind of a lot. One of the other things that I found in all of my searching and reading, and this kind of made me feel vindicated, is that the Paperwhite one is notoriously difficult to jailbreak. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's because it's the first of its kind or whatever, but it seems like a lot of people who have this device had a very difficult time jailbreaking it. It definitely made me feel vindicated. It made me feel like, okay, I'm not an idiot. This is just a difficult device. That being said, if it was easy for you, I'm super duper happy for you. That's amazing. I'm only talking about my experience here. And as I've said, I read books. I've never jailbroken anything before. I use things the way that they are intended to be used. So this was a wholly new experience for me, and please don't judge me too harshly for that. I came across a forum where somebody was talking about my exact device and that they were trying to jailbreak it. And when you go to the Kindle modding site and it walks you through, it tells you to use the winter break for this device. What I found through a lot of comments and people talking back and forth was that the winter break doesn't work for the Paperwhite one. What it was suggested that you do is downgrade your firmware to 5.4 and then run the K5 jailbreak. So that's what I did. It still is a little bit tricky and sticky. The first thing I did was delete all of the previous winter break files off of my Kindle, and I did a factory reset. I think I'm gonna read just straight off of my notes. I downgraded my firmware to 4.4, and then I installed the jailbreak. And then I attempted to install the KUAL and the MRPI, and it didn't work. I went on a little search to figure out what I was doing wrong, and I found a bunch of posts that said, downgrade to 5.4, do the jailbreak, put all the scriptlets on, run everything, get your co-reader up, and then re-upgrade to 5.6.1.1. But then I found other people who said that that didn't work for them and that they had to downgrade to 5.4, put on the jailbreak, run the jailbreak, then upgrade to 5.6, and then do the KUAL and the MRPI install. And that is what worked for me. So you see where I'm saying that the Paperwhite one is a very strange device. It seems like it works differently for a lot of people. And I'm wondering if that's because of like variance in its actual like factory production. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sure that somebody smarter than me can let me know in the comments. After a lot of trial and error, reading a lot of comments, reading a lot of forums, going through the walkthrough, and just trying to troubleshoot and figure things out, here's what I ended up doing. I did a factory reset. I downgraded to 5.4. I installed the jailbreak. Then I upgraded back to 5.6. Then I had to go back into airplane mode, and I had to copy the universal hotfix to the Kindle root file, update the Kindle, ran the hotfix. Then I could put the MRPI extension back in and the qual for legacy, and then ran the semicolon log MRPI, and that worked perfectly. Finally, after several hours and a lot of trial and error, I was able to jailbreak this Kindle. So the first thing I wanted to do, redeem myself. I wanted to run some scriptlets and actually get them to work so that I could take advantage of the things that people were saying were absolutely life-changing for them. First thing is disabling ads. I couldn't find a clear answer on this question, but I put on the disable ad scriptlet and I ran it, and now there are no ads on my lock screen. However, on the actual home screen of the Kindle, the ads are still right there. I don't know if the disable ads is supposed to remove this. I thought when everybody said, I love not seeing ads on my Kindle, I thought that this is what they meant, because I don't really care what's on the lock screen. When I'm not using my Kindle, I tend to turn the screen off entirely, because this really old Kindle I left on its lock screen for like the entirety of its battery life once, and now there are very subtle images burnt into the screen. So when I'm not using my Kindle, I turn the screen off entirely. Not having ads on my lock screen doesn't really affect me in the first place because that's not where I'm looking. I guess it technically worked, but not the way that I thought it would, and I can't find any clarification on if the disable ads is supposed to get rid of these right here. It's kind of irrelevant because I just leave this Kindle in the co-reader anyway. I don't come into this screen very often because nothing except for the co-reader works right now. I haven't put very much on here, so don't take that as like a deep criticism of the jailbreaking lore. A handful of things that I did try to put on here didn't work. The one game that I was excited for was Wordle because I love Wordle, and it's just I'm such a dull person. All I really like to do is read. And so I got excited to play unlimited Kindle Wordle, and as you can see, it doesn't work. So the one game that I was excited for doesn't work. I did a bunch of troubleshooting. I tried to get it to work. I really wanted it to work. If the Wordle had worked, I was ready to just make a video saying how wrong I was and how the jailbreak really was completely and totally worth it just for Wordle. That's how incredibly boring I am. I was hyped for Wordle and it doesn't work. Real big bummer. The thing that does work, however, is the co-reader, which is great because that is, at the end of the day, the whole purpose of this device. The whole point to even have this is to read books. So getting the co-reader to work and to house my books and make them available to read outside of Amazon was the whole point. I had a comment on one of my videos, either the video or the short, I don't remember, but they made such an insightful point where they said that you shouldn't get so caught up in sticking it to the man and personalizing and modding that you lose sight of the device's original intended purpose, which in my case is to read books. The only thing I need this to do is read books, and I can outside of Amazon, which is great. So I get to keep using this despite Amazon's stupid bullshit. And that is the whole point. That's what I should be happy about, and I am happy about it. It was worth my time to do that. I haven't really gotten into the custom settings of the co-reader because I'm not that interested in them. I know that everybody says that custom settings in the co-reader is elite, it's iconic, it's the best of the best. I was talking to my husband a little bit about it, and he does not read physical books or ebooks at all. He only listens to audiobooks. He was like, I wouldn't care about that because I read physical books so rarely that I don't care about any of those personalized settings. I realized I'm kind of the same. I read a lot of physical books. I read more physical books than audio or e-reader. And when you read a physical book, you have to read it how it was published. I can't change the font, I can't change the margins, I can't change the word spacing or line spacing. It is how it is. It was printed this way and that's how I read it. A lot of books are printed differently from each other. Just to give you some very quick examples of how published books can look very, very different from each other. This is a self-published book called The Forest of Arrows by V.F. Sharp. This is what it looks like on the inside. It's a pretty big font. It's a very white paper. The margins are kind of small. This is a Simon & Schuster paperback edition of Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. The print is very small. The paper is a little bit cream. The margins are not huge, but they're decent. And the line spacing is very small as well. This is a Tor paperback printing of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. As you can see, the paper is somewhere between white and cream. I think it's a little more cream than the Lonesome Dove. The font is pretty large. The margins are, I think, a little bit larger than the other two. My point with that is just that when you read a physical book, you don't pick any of that. And I mostly read physical books. So for me, all of those settings are mostly irrelevant. I don't really care about them. That's just my experience. But if you do most of your reading on an e-reader, then getting access to co-reader could actually be life-changing for you. If you're reading 100 books a year and you're reading them all on an e-reader, then yeah, you might want them to look a specific way. It might be easier for you to read with larger line spacing, smaller margins, and a larger font. And that is actually where I think co-reader is iconic and is elite. It just didn't matter as much to me. This is just my experience and my perspective. If you're really interested in learning about the co-reading settings, but you're having kind of a hard time, the walkthrough or I don't think it's a walkthrough, it's like a guidebook or user guide is really, really long. I totally understand not wanting to read it. Check out Stefan Svettling's videos, and I will link him down below. He has a lot of really helpful videos on getting your books onto co-reader, getting your books in Calibre, and I think he has an entire video talking about the co-reader settings. So that's a really good place to start if you're like me and you didn't want to read like a 40-page user guide. So overall, jailbreaking was a success, and I am really happy about it. It can feel very overwhelming. There's a lot of information out there, and you're gonna have to try more than once, probably, with older devices, because it doesn't work exactly how it's supposed to work, and it can get really overwhelming and it can feel really tedious. But if you are determined, you can make it work for you. At the end of the day, do I think jailbreaking was worth my time? It still took a really long time to get it done. And the only reason that I was so committed to making it work was because I wanted to come back and make a video saying that I was wrong. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to come back and say, no, you know what, guys? You were right. I was wrong. Jailbreaking really was life-altering. It has changed everything. I love it so much. But unfortunately, for my device, I just can't say that. If a friend who is equally as not tech savvy as myself had a Paperwhite one and they asked me, hey, Amazon's about to not support my device anymore, should I jailbreak it? I would probably say no. It just doesn't seem worth it. I would probably tell them to buy a different e-reader, whether that's a Nook or a Kobo or like some just off-brand e-reader. I would say, don't bother. It is a huge time sink with what I think is really underwhelming results for my device, for my experience. What I think is extremely worthwhile, and I would urge every person with a like proprietary e-reader, so like if you have a Nook or a Kindle specifically, I would urge you to get Calibre, download it, learn how to use it, and DRM your books, and at least have them side-loaded somewhere. I have all of mine side-loaded on a really old laptop, and that's basically all I use that laptop for. All of my books are on there. It's really satisfying to have like 100+ books that I bought somewhere where I can still access them in an EPUB file. Once you have your book in Calibre and you DRM it and convert it to EPUB, you can read that anywhere. And I think for me, having that ability is way more worth your time and actually way easier to do than the whole endeavor of jailbreaking. Because now you can put those books anywhere. They're yours forever. You have removed the limitations from them and you can access them anytime, any place. You just have to know how to use Calibre, which is extremely easy to use. Stefan Svetling has videos on Calibre as well. I found those very helpful. I would not have found out about Calibre if not for going down the jailbreaking rabbit hole. So I am really happy about that. And that aspect of this, 100% worth every minute of my time. I think, end of the day, final thoughts. Hesitant, yes, this was worth my time because I still get to use this device. This is a 14-year-old device that still works exactly how it's supposed to work. It does have some nicks and bruises, but it works. And now I have all of my books in this co-reader. I can access them. I don't have to worry about Amazon changing the content of my books or changing the covers. That is something Amazon does that I really, really hate, is that they can go in and they can alter the content of your book at any time. That is something that I think was worth it for me. I don't necessarily think it's worth it for everyone. Like I said, this device in particular was a real pain in the ass. I think that if you're running 5.10 to 5.16, those are probably like the prime devices to jailbreak, and it's probably way easier and way more satisfying, much more effective, because you can run all the other scriptlets like the games that people talk about, which adds a little bit of functionality that your device didn't have before. So that is really fun, and I'm happy for those people. Unfortunately, it didn't work for me. That's pretty much it. I would like to say again that if you have advice, tips, tricks, if you have scriptlets that you know work on the Paperwhite one, send me an email, send me a message in my other social medias, leave a comment, reach out and let me know, because I would love to be able to have more functionality in my device and maybe enjoy some of the things that other people have talked about. I really, really appreciate you staying this long if you're still here. I have, for the most part, enjoyed this experience because I do enjoy like learning and new experiences. I probably won't jailbreak anything in the future. If you've made it this far, if you like books, if you like book reviews, and you like talking about reading and talking about books, if you want to do a buddy read, if you're interested in new books that you've never heard of before, or maybe old books that you haven't thought about in a long time, this is the place for you, because that's pretty much all I do is talk about books. These Kindle videos are sort of a one-off, they're outliers. I probably won't talk about the Kindle again. We're gonna wrap that up right here and now, and we're gonna get back into the book content. If that's something that you're interested in, stick around, because that is what we do here. Thanks for hanging out.